Fabio, Rahim with Eddie Hearn at your humble abode here.
Yes.
It's been it's taken me 10 years, but I've finally gotten an invite.
Time, yeah? Well done.
Yeah, the whole world got COVID. I still didn't get an invite out, and now here we are with. These are alpacas or llamas?
They are llamas. They're llamas. Basically, what happens is obviously my old man, he's got a lot. And what do you buy a man who has everything? And one year they bought him peacocks, but they started flying away down to the local train station. So then they bought him llamas, and everyone who works here loves it because they come out, they feed the llamas, and they have a stroll around. And we like to, obviously, we're here to talk boxing, but this is where the Matchroom operation exists, and we wanted to always create. This is my home where I grew up, and it's a very special place to me and my family. And we like that to be the same for our team. So when you come in, you have a smile on your face rather than we're at work today. So you might be out. Last night I came back to the office and there was a big rounders match going on out here, and then people are in the gym and they're using the sauna and the ice bath, and it's just nice to create an environment. I think some jobs are so mind-numbing and the environment is so tough and almost depressing that it's nice to create an environment. I think that's when you get the best out of people, when you can create that environment that people enjoy being a part of, and that's what we like to do at the Matchroom HQ. So welcome.
And we're just about an hour outside of town. We're in the countryside, and when I was sitting here eating, I was thinking how many multi-million-dollar deals have probably been made sitting in this garden. You have a particular memory, maybe a moment when you realize that you were on top of Matchroom and top of boxing that happened here.
Yeah, we had a couple of pivotal moments here. One was when we first went into boxing and signed Carl Froch, and we were working with him in the Super 6 final, and we hosted the press conference for Carl Froch against Andre Ward for the Super 6 final here. And this, you're talking, 10 years ago, 11 years, and I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. But I had all the Showtime cameras, I had Ken Hirschman, I had Froch, I had Andre Ward, I had Virgil Hunter, all here, and I'm in the middle. Yeah, let me tell you about this Super 6 file. So, stuff like that. But I think the most defining moment here was during COVID, when we were told that we could no longer do live events, and all our shows were cancelled. And I sat on the stairs there thinking, we're cancelling the O2, we're cancelling Manchester Arena, we're cancelling MSG. What are we going to do? And I just said, we're going to do them here. And that was the birth of Fight Camp, which will always be remembered as just something that was just so impressive during COVID and so much fun for the team. And that's a great memory. But yeah, this is everything goes on here. This is where I spend my time if I'm in the country, and where I spent most of my life.
And now you have a legitimate fight site that's been used here. You ever see boxing matches happening again here?
Everyone asks. Everyone that came, everyone that watches, you've got to do Fight Camp again. But it was a huge operation. You've got to remember, we're staging here, you're building the truss and the canopy and putting the production in. And one year it was obviously no fans, and year two we actually had fans here, which is weird for me because I'm sort of coming out into my old garden and there's 400 or 300 Jack Cullen fans over there, having a wee in the bush. Do you know what I mean? And it's but it was amazing to open up the gates to boxing fans and say, this is where it all happens. And it was a special event. So I think Fight Camp will always have the potential to return, but we'll see.
You mentioned Super 6, and it makes me think that something like that is probably due again in the heavyweight division, probably especially, which would be the hardest to do, I would imagine. But do you think that something like that could be put on again?
The problem has always been the politics of promoters and networks. It's the same really when you look at the World Boxing Super Series, which I actually think is a great concept. And I supported that, with Calla when it started. But certain promoters didn't. And then when certain promoters don't, it's very difficult to get the elite guys in. And if the elite people aren't in, how interested are you? And can you really say it's the best be the best? I think it would take someone like, Saudi or, an international territory to say, we want to host, like what they're talking about now. Joshua Wilder, Fury, Usyk saying, whatever happens, maybe an extended version of that. But it's very difficult as well. And what you got in the World Boxing Super Series was fighters getting injured, and then a wild card comes in, but the idea of it and the concept of it, I think, is really impressive. And I hope the World Boxing Super Series returns, actually, because I really like the concept.
Well, as of late, especially in the last 24 hours, it's occurred to me how much there is a new kind of hurdle to boxing, I guess, Final Four type of undisputed titles being held. In that, obviously, we've seen Ngannou and Tyson Fury announce their fight, press conference. And for the first time, to me, Tyson's actually said that traditional boxing, he says it's small-time shit. It's like not interesting to him. You know, he's on Netflix. He's got a record out. Ngannou's the biggest fight he can make. We both have played a bit of our part in this influencer boxing crossover stuff happening. Is it now becoming maybe a problem in boxing to where fighters are seeing the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow and not normal competition?
I think no, but it all depends on the individual. Like, you can't criticize Fury for not being concerned or as concerned for his legacy or greatness as someone else. And everyone's different. He may not. He said yesterday, I saw his interviews, I don't care about Undisputed. I've never been bothered about Undisputed. And so therefore, I'm not interested in Usyk. You know, he said, I'm not interested in Joshua. He's a gym sweeper. I'm only interested in the big boys. But if you're not interested in Usyk and Joshua, who on earth are you interested in? Is it just YouTube? I don't know. And that's his own choice. Like, the disappointment for me is, I love sport. I love greatness. I love seeing someone produce greatness in sport. And he is the best heavyweight in the world at the moment, I think. And he could beat Alexander Usyk. He could fight Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. And if he beats him, he would go down as the greatest heavyweight of our generation. He would have beat Klitschko, Wilder, Usyk, and AJ. He'd be the undisputed heavyweight world champion, right? If you don't put a value on that person, and by the way, the money is enormous. So this is when it doesn't actually really make sense, because he says he only wants the big money now, but the big money, really, let's not kid ourselves. The big money is in AJ, and the big money is in Usyk versus those guys. What he's actually saying is, I can actually have fights I can't lose for a lot of money, right? But everyone's different, and I don't criticise him for that. I just think it's a shame that people want to turn their back on boxing, especially people who love boxing, like Tyson Fury. He's a well of knowledge in terms of boxing, and I don't always believe him, you know. But the danger comes for boxing of not producing interesting fights. That's the bigger danger. There's no danger for boxing, but there's more pressure. And there's more danger that we need to keep creating great fights. Because if we don't, people will get bored and people will go, you know what, I'll watch. I mean, look at KSI against Tommy Fury on DAZN. It's massive. Massive, right? Good. DAZN are going to get a load of subscribers, but it's still a YouTuber against a sort of prospect. Like, you know what I mean? So we just got to make sure that we make great boxing events. And if Tyson Fury turns his back on boxing, that's a blow for the sport, because he's a massive name. And he's great for boxing. And I just hope that legacy means something to him. He will say, I've already got legacy. I'm the greatest of all time. But come on, like, have a sensible conversation. You could be. And he would be a favourite in the Usyk fight, and he would be a favourite in the AJ fight. Just do them, make a couple of 100 million, and you're the greatest of our entire generation. Hopefully that means something to these guys. Because every kid that comes in my office wants to be undisputed. Every kid that laces up the gloves. But it's not some people are just different. And if he just cares about money and those kind of fights, good luck to him. You can't criticise him for it, but he can be a catalyst to make boxing great. You know, you can't just say, I'm not interested in them, who cares about them? People do care. It's massive. And you could be the guy that makes people realise how special those fights are.
If making that choice you can't criticize, but if in fact that's what he decides, all these other roads, he says maybe a cage match is next. Does that diminish his greatness? We know that what you've laid out is potential.
It does, but if you don't care, like, he already claims that he's the best of our generation by beating Wilder and Klitschko, and that's it. You're not. He's a brilliant heavyweight. He's the number one heavyweight in the world right now. But I just think, again, and when you're favourite in those fights, like, there's massive money in the Usyk fight. Much more than he's getting to fight Ngannou. Much more. And Fury, AJ fight's even bigger. So it's not like, I understand if it's like there's no money in those fights, but there's masses of money. But they're tougher than fighting a guy that's never boxed before. So he's sitting up there yesterday going, I can't believe my luck here. I'm fighting this bloke. He's never even put a pair of gloves on as a pro. I'm the #1 heavyweight in the world. Thank you very much. Give me my money. And you can't help but smile and say, we understand. You can't, for someone who's also driven by money from a business point of view, I can't criticise it really. I can say I'm disappointed that we didn't see those fights. But as I hear it, and I know, there are conversations to do Fury against Usyk. And maybe even Fury against AJ. Who knows what's going to happen with that little quartet? And I think if the money's right, I think he'll do it. I just hope that, like I said, it means enough to do it. Because you look at people like Crawford and Spence, and they are genuinely chasing greatness. You know?
On the flip side, we got Fury, who, at least at the moment, doesn't want it. Joshua, who I certainly believe wants these fights. The Wilder fight, the Fury fight, chases these fights. The Wilder fight, which now seemed like it was a given, is slowed in your in the way you've described it, but could possibly be off the table. If that is the case, as much as he wants those fights, like you say, you as a promoter understand where the money is, could we see Joshua in one of these crossover fights?
No, you won't. I can't speak for him in that respect, but in my mind, I'm 100% sure you will never see AJ in a YouTube fight or a crossover. Maybe when he retires, who knows in the future. But don't forget, look, Francis Ngannou came to me and said, I'd like to fight Joshua. And I was like, well, blimey, okay. And I met Francis Ngannou and I took it to AJ and he just said, no. Like, I want to become world heavyweight champion again. Not fighting Ngannou. I said, okay. And that's the only conversations we had. For Fury, maybe he feels like he's got a belt and I'll do it. And I don't blame him for that. But Josh is different. I'm not trying to big him up here. I'm not trying to win fans. I'm just telling you, he cares about reputation, legacy, and he also feels obliged to the sport to try and fight the best. And if we can get the Wilder fight over the line, it would be massive for the sport. Massive heavyweight fight. And he would fight Fury now. And I think it's not that Fury's scared of Usyk or Joshua. He just knows that they're a lot more heavy duty than Francis Ngannou. Do you know what I mean? So he's just, in his mind, it's smarter business. And maybe it is. But, Josh he just wants legacy. And he actually wants to win the world heavyweight title back. That's what he wants to do. This is really all he wants to do.
Is it important to him to just win a heavyweight title back? Does he want a third crack at Usyk? Does he want still undisputed?
I don't think it's ever the individual. It's like, I think if there's one, if we ever did anything wrong, and again, I think sometimes you look back and think, what could we done different? And I think he should be admired for this. I think he wanted the undisputed so bad. And he would never give up a belt, because he just wanted to win every belt and become undisputed. And when we got the mandatory put on us by Usyk, a lot of people said to him and to me, don't fight Usyk. That's a terrible fight for AJ. But when you had that conversation, the other alternative was to vacate the belt. And he's like, but all I want to do is be undisputed. So I have to fight Usyk. It's my job as a champion. And I'm like, that's admirable, but no one will ever give you credit because that's just how boxing works. But he chose that fight because he wanted to be undisputed. So for all the years that we were having to fight mandatories and slowing down the career and only boxing twice because we were waiting on these negotiations, that negotiation, did we put too much emphasis on trying to be undisputed? Maybe. But isn't that a good thing? That you want to win every belt and you want to protect your belts and fight the best? I don't know. I mean, that seems to be not the world of boxing these days. But I don't want that to leave the sport. I understand it's a business, and I understand you want to make as much money as possible to take the easiest fights possible. But I don't want you to swerve the mega fights because there's more money over there for that one that's a bit easy. Like, at some point, haven't you got enough money that it's about a little bit more than that? And, maybe that's a bit naive.
And now we've got, as we mentioned, YouTubers. I seem to be taking a bigger bite, like this KSI Tommy Fury. KSI could fight other YouTubers and still be main event, make his money. Tommy has beaten Jake Paul, and so KSI takes that challenge. from the KSI side, you think that's a wise choice? Can he win that fight?
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, for Tommy, look, Tommy is, what is he as a pro? 9-0, 10-0, whatever it is. I don't think Tommy can win an English title, right? And if you're fighting for the English titles, obviously he's a bigger name, so I don't know what he's making to fight for an English title. 30, 40, 50 grand, 60 grand, 100 grand. He's making a few million every time he fights to fight a YouTuber. So for Tommy Fury, it's masterful business. Yeah, and I think he's doing exactly the right thing. His brother is the best heavyweight in the world. It's different. Do you know what I mean? You can beat the best in the world and be one of the greatest in sport of all time. But for Tommy, he can't. So he's just doing the right thing. He can't believe his luck. He's fighting Jake Paul for whatever he made, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 million, and again KSI, for a 6-rounder against a bloke who can't fight. Do you know what I mean? But that's just the size of the commercial draw. And I like KSI because I think he's really improved. I think he works hard. He's a very smart guy, and he wants to win. And whilst the YouTubers are respecting the sport, and I think KSI is, and Jake Paul certainly is, I think it's good. And I think it's definitely bringing interest to the sport. And I think they're not taking the mickey out of our sport. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think stuff like the tag team and stuff like that is, but that's okay because we can say it's just entertainment. But those guys, the bigger profile guys, they can help the sport by saying how great boxing is. I think if you genuinely spoke to KSI or Jake Paul, they would say boxing's really improved my life. You know, and that's what it does. We believe that.
And you say Tommy Fury can't win a British title, that you believe will never be a contender for like world championships.
Definitely. Yeah, I think every fighter believes they can do it, but everybody in boxing knows. I'm not saying he's terrible, but there's loads of fighters. Some here today that might not win a British title. It's not an insult. It's like when I say Jake Paul's average and he gets the hump with me. He is. But for a YouTuber turned boxer at 24, 25, he's brilliant. You know? So it's just that I think Tommy's just realised now he's making all this money for fighting YouTubers. And he should beat KSI comfortably. Might not, but I think he does. And then at the end of it, I think he'll go back to the changing room and go, I can't believe this. Is there anyone else? Do you know what I mean?
Well, some guys might have taken a slice out of the YouTuber promotion card yesterday. Fabio, Wardley, in a dust-up with David Adeleye. I don't know. It wasn't Fabio's fault. We were doing an interview. We looked over. He was attacked. What did you make of that?
Well, I think he confronted Adeleye, didn't he? And then Adeleye bit back, and then he went for Adeleye, and then as he walked in, someone chinned him, didn't they, from the side? Or I don't know, but...
Okay, so maybe the build-up to that was something different I didn't see.
I mean, the build-up, what I saw was you were interviewing Fabio Wardley.
Yeah.
Adeleye was sounding off against one of Fabio Wardley's team.
Right.
Fabio said, hey, what's going on here? Walked over. Adeleye come to him, shoved him. Fabio went, right, glasses came off, ran in. As he ran in, someone did him from the side. He's got a big cut down here, Apparently his finger's busted. Like, he's a desire, but you can't, I don't know the security situation, but you'd want to know that someone gets in quick enough but they're big lumps. Do you know what I mean? It ain't easy.
Just break that one up.
So,
I did my best.
It's not good. I mean, you just went like this. Okay. You were like, that meme of, is it Bart Simpson going into the hedge?
It's Homer.
Yeah,
yep. Homer. That's exactly right.
So I don't blame you either, by the way. I would have done the same thing. So, but yeah, I just think it's never good, is it? But also, they're big lumps, and all of a sudden, he's cut. Can he even make the fight? I don't know. But never great to see. But yeah.
And lastly, we were all kind of keeping an eye out, thinking that Conor might turn up today. I know you get this question almost every day, but is there any news?
No, not since we spoke a couple of days ago. Someone did call me last night, a member of the media, to say, I've heard that you're announcing Eubank Ben today. And I'm like, no. But we hope so at some point soon.
I have to ask this question because the Fury Ngannou was obviously Riyadh season promoted, but not the team at a Skills Challenge. And so I've read, assuming this quote is correct, that you're saying that you're looking maybe at different venues for Joshua Wilder if Saudi doesn't come through.
I mean, we've ourselves on behalf of AJ and 258 and Shelley Finkel and Deontay Wilder have agreed terms for the fight. The money, everything. Until it's contracted and signed, doesn't really mean a lot. But there seems to be obviously some movement in terms of entities promoting and taking control of boxing in Saudi. So, you know, if Skills Challenge or whoever that is don't come up with the contract, we'll speak to someone who might be controlling the budget now, and maybe they're looking at doing the double header again. Maybe they're not looking at Joshua Wilder. Maybe they're looking at Usyk against Fury. Maybe they're looking at Fury against AJ. I don't know. Anything could happen. But looking after the career of Anthony Joshua, we know that we must look to get him active, and he wants to fight as quickly as possible. If we can't do Wilder in January, there's a very good chance he'll fight in December. But it is our 100% intention to fight Deontay Wilder, and if we can't do that fight in Saudi, we will look at that fight at alternative venues in the Middle East, or even in America or in the UK.
Where else would be in the running for the kind of money that fight requires?
There's a number of countries in the Middle East that want to bring big-time boxing to their country, but at the same time, it's a huge event in Las Vegas, huge event at Wembley. You know, it might not carry exactly the same money as a Saudi site fee, but if that's not there, it's irrelevant anyway. So we will wait to see which direction they take.
And lastly on this, do you have any conversations with Fury? Because if you get this full, card together, Usyk, Fury, Joshua Wilder, that's a sell anywhere in the world. It's the biggest night of boxing. Yeah, but together on the same night, and no promoter has a problem putting that together. I know these aren't your fighters, but is there at any point you and Shelley and, get together and be like, listen, let's all four of us get together and make this happen for everybody?
It's up to the individuals. We can't make Tyson Fury fight Usyk. It's up to him and the deal makers to do that. And by
you don't call Aram or even Frank.
Aram and Frank don't have any control over what Tyson Fury does. He's going to do whatever he wants to do, and he's going to tell them what he's going to do. And I don't have control over Anthony Joshua. Obviously, our relationship's a lot closer, but it's going to come down. If that quartet fight is going to happen, it comes down to one man, Tyson Fury, because everybody else is in. But maybe Fury just says, I want the biggest fight, the biggest offer. And that's Anthony Joshua. Maybe you see Fury against A. Honestly, nothing would surprise me in this crazy boxing world we're in right now.
Well, I'm in. So I'm going to try to get the four of you at a table, and we're going to all work it out. I mean, we're on the countryside in England. The world is moving beneath your feet. Yeah. That's how big you are right now. And so hopefully I can get the four big guys at the table and get this quartet, I like that word, quartet of heavyweight championship boxing on. The Final Four, Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn.